What's going on, guys? Matt from the Trojan Brotherhood, and today I want to talk about why I think USC will be a lot better than people think in 2025. And the reason I say this is because right now, let's be honest, USC is kind of being laughed at. They're coming off back-to-back rough seasons, and so no one aside from SC fans see this team as a Big Ten contender or a playoff contender. They aren't even ranked in the top 25, and their over-under win total is at 7.5. And just for reference, the other teams with 7.5s, teams like Auburn, Iowa State, North Carolina, and I just can't help but think that USC is so much better than those teams. Those teams do not have the capability to be leading Penn State in the fourth quarter, to drop 30-plus points on Notre Dame. Two elite teams that played in the college football semifinals, Notre Dame, of course, getting to the national championship game. And you may not think that that matters because at the end of the day, they still lost, but it means they were close. And sure, I know the old saying, you guys may be thinking it right now, close doesn't count, but in my opinion, I don't think that applies to college football because being close to elite teams like that is a clear indicator. If South Alabama played Alabama and lost by 50, and USC played Alabama and lost by 1 point, you're not going to say, oh, it was the same thing, they're both losses. Of course, one matters more because not everyone in the country can compete with a team like Alabama. So when you see that we can compete against Notre Dame, we can put 30-plus points, which I believe there was two teams that scored 30-plus points on Notre Dame. It was USC and the national champions, Ohio State. So in college football, when you are close, that is an indicator, and that matters because the path to dominance in college football is you have to lose big before you lose small, before you win small, and then eventually you win big. And right now, USC is clearly trying to get over that hump of losing small. They are competing, they're as good as these teams, but they just couldn't execute down the stretch of games. And honestly, I think that this season is going to come down to the same thing. So when I look at the schedule, I think there's 3 fourth quarters that we really have to look at. And that may sound crazy, but what I mean by that is when you look at the schedule, there's easy games, there's really tough games like at Oregon, at Notre Dame. Let's say we win all of the easy games that we should, which I believe we will. And just for the sake of argument, I do think we can beat both Oregon and Notre Dame. And just to be clear, I do really think we beat Oregon and Notre Dame. But just for the sake of argument, say that's 2 losses right there. We're trying to get to the playoffs. If we lose against 2 top 10 teams like that, we could still make the playoffs. But looking at the schedule, there are 3 teams that I think are very similar to us in talent, and I think could go either way. I look at these games, and I think whoever wins, there's no way they're blowouts. And so I circled 3 games. It was at Illinois, at Nebraska, and home against Michigan. And so I think that either way, whether we win, they win, it will not be a blowout. Like USC isn't just going to go on the road and beat the brakes off of Illinois and Nebraska. Those are good teams. You're on the road. And USC is like a solid, consistent team. I'm hoping they won't be like a dominant Ohio State where they're just blowing the brakes off people. And then, of course, Michigan at home. So those 3 games, the talent is similar, and they're going to be close games. So when I try to predict these games, I look, and it comes down to the fourth quarter and that final 15 minutes. And in that final 15 minutes, we could either have 3 wins and be looking at a path to the playoffs, or we could lose all 3 and have a season like last year where we had 6 losses, all 6 of them were close, and we're thinking, oh, maybe next year. But evaluating this team, we're kind of just solid all around. The only real question I have is left guard and some depth on defense. But other than that, there isn't really like a crazy hole in the roster where you think it's going to get exploded like those 22 and 23 defenses. So when you have a solid all-around team, you're going to be in pretty much every game, kind of similarly to last year where we were in every single game, except we lost every single close game. But the key thing in those losses was every single loss had an interception thrown by the USC quarterback in the fourth quarter. And in 5 of those losses, USC actually had a lead in the fourth quarter. That is just insane. Regardless of whether USC changed the roster, changed coaches, whatever, for a team to repeat that level of unluckiness is just absurd. And that's part of the reason I don't think it'll happen again, because I think that USC will be better in crunch time this year because of 3 reasons. Number 1, I think that Lincoln Riley had some horrible showings last year as an OC. Against Michigan, when we had the lead, in the fourth quarter with the ball, we ran those back-to-back screen passes, stopping the clock, giving them the ball back. We all remember that. It was very frustrating. Against Washington, as good as Woody was running the football, just refused to run the football in the first half. It eventually cost us the game. And you may be thinking, he's still the coach. How is that going to change? And my response to that is, we're not going to act like Lincoln Riley isn't one of the smartest offensive minds in the sport. He just had a bad showing last year, but his resume speaks for itself. He had a career before USC where he was a brilliant offensive coordinator. And just like players, coaches can have bad games. Coaches can have bad moments. And last season, he had some really, really bad moments that cost us some football games. I'm just being straight up. But I think that he understands that, and I think he's willing to change for the benefit of the team. And you have to give Lincoln Riley the benefit of the doubt. He is willing to change. He fired Alex Grinch. He's transformed that defense. I think he can do the same thing with this offense, and I think we've already seen that with them acquiring 2 transfer running backs already, and finally, for the first time in 2 years, acquiring a real center. So with the roster they brought in, everything seems to be leading towards an identity change, that this team can have the makeup of a team that will run the football, so that what happened against Washington will not happen again. And then another problem from last year was, obviously, I already mentioned it, the quarterback play, more specifically in that fourth quarter, because like I stated, every single loss, there was an interception in the fourth quarter. And while all of those except one were Miller Moss, I could just sit here and say, well, Miller Moss is gone, we're good, let's move on. But I think you know and I know that's not that simple, because Maiava does make a lot of mistakes with the football as well, maybe even more so. But I think that there's 2 things that will help him. One, if we're running the football as much as we should be going up against a lot of heavy boxes, selling out for the run, leading to more one-on-one looks for those elite wideouts. Of course, you know I'm talking about Lemonade, Jacoby Lane, and Makai Lemon, who in my opinion are one of the best wide receiver duos in college football. And the way I can kind of look at this USC offense with all of the talent, the tools they have, I think what it's going to be is kind of a pick your poison. If you want to run cover 2 all day with a light box because you're worried about Lemon and Lane beating you over the top, going for 100 plus yards, all right, that's cool. Then we'll just run the ball down your throat with our 3 running backs. We could swap them out and we won't get tired. Now, if you want to pack the box, game plan is pack the box, sell out for the run. Then Makai Lemon, Jacoby Lane will go for 100 yards apiece. I can promise you that. And if you think you can just man up our receivers, shut them down, and stop the run, I got news for you, you can't. And that, I don't care if you're Bama, Ohio State, Notre Dame, whoever, you're not going to cover Lane and Lemon one-on-one. They're too dangerous. They're too good. They are NFL wideouts. And so I think having a good run game, having 2 of the best weapons in college football, that alone will help us perform in the fourth quarter more so than we did last year. And I know there's a lot of questions about Maiava, but we cannot deny the fact that he's talented. And then the last big factor, of course, one of the most important things in football is pass protection, with Elijah Page and Tobias Sherman are 2 tackles that I'm very, very high on. I think they're great tackles in the making. And so if you're worried about Maiava, I can't say I blame you, but he's really got everything he needs to succeed. He has elite wideouts, he has a run game, and pass protection. And say what you want about Maiava, we all know he's very, very talented. We know he has a great arm. We've seen him make elite throws to open receivers. And so I think if you can simplify the game for him so he can be successful, I think it can be a good season. Because think about it like this way. Lincoln Riley is one of the best offensive minds in football. He has a talented QB who makes mistakes, elite receivers, great pass protection, and 3 great running backs. There's no reason that can't work and that can't be a great offense. And as for the defensive side of the ball, I think we're really solid. And at the very least, the floor of this defense is an average, pretty good defense, kind of similar to last year. But there are so many X factors that I think can take this to a good and maybe even an elite defense. And those X factors include Cam Fountain, Braley Shelby, Desmond Stevens, Stanos, Celis Williams, and there's much others. And I'll kind of get more into that when I do my position previews. But overall, to wrap up my thoughts on why I think we'll be a lot better this season is, it's just, you have a team that was very close in so many games last season, and then you improve the roster, get an easier schedule, and potentially have a change in philosophy on offense. It's hard for me to see those close games repeating the exact same ways, and that's why I think it will be so much better than an unranked 7.5 win over or under team, which is what the college football community thinks of USC right now. So without a doubt, I think this team is better than that. But overall, this USC football team will be a lot better in 2025, in my opinion. But anyways, that's going to do it for today's video. Like I mentioned briefly, I'm going to be starting my position previews for this USC team where I deep dive into all the players of each position group, kind of break down, give my thoughts on its strength, weakness, and how I think they'll perform in 2025. So stay tuned for that. I'm really excited about that. I'll be uploading one a week starting with the quarterbacks, but if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to like and subscribe. Stay tuned for more Trojan content, and fight on.